Hello, Uta here on this September 17th of 2024. I'm trying to film outside, hoping that my neighbors aren't suddenly going to start mowing their lawns. I'm here next to my beautiful asters. I think the variety is called Honey Song Pink. And I found some shade where the glare, I think, isn't going to interfere too much with my reading of a little piece that I've composed in honor and in memory of my mother, who died on this day 5 years ago. Yes, I just started this piece yesterday, but it's something that I've been thinking about ever since the start of this month. And I just, I wanted to pass along this beautiful moment that I had. Ooh, there's a bee, a curious bee. With my mother, really the last time I saw her. I didn't know it would be the last time, but it turned out to be. And I helped her to listen to a most beautiful piece by Bach, which is the double violin concerto. And there are several versions available for free to listen to on YouTube. The fastest pace one is featuring violinist Hilary Hahn. The one I had my mother listen to was with the violinists Itzhak Perlman and Pinchas Zuckerman. So here we go. I've been practicing. The first few times I didn't manage to keep my composure, but I think that I will in memory of Lorraine. 1919 to 2019. Yesterday, I discovered two tiny spruce tree saplings as I watered and weeded a long neglected corner of the front yard. The chrysanthemums I copiously clipped in July and August to prevent early blooming are starting to open. I plucked up the saplings, grabbed a jug of rainwater and a trowel. The northeast corner of my woods is my spot for planting evergreens. I noticed the white pine I dug in there last year didn't survive our recent dry spell, but the last little spruce I popped in was bigger and thicker. I watered in all three. In rooting around for a good spot to plant the second tiny clump of blue-green needles, I found a long ago discarded rug. The rug was too big to deal with in the late afternoon, but its retrieval will become a project. I use old rugs and runners for weed suppression and trail creation. I'm hoping it proves to be a runner. My mother, Lorraine, a child of the Great Depression, would approve of the entire enterprise. I've discovered free plants and found something old and discarded to put to good use in the future. On this day 5 years ago, that is, the day before she died at age 100, I saw 25 monarchs, a phenomenon relayed to me by several friends who also saw dozens of the migrating butterflies. I think it was a Sunday, then Monday, September 17th in 2019, was the day she left us. She'd been ill with congestive heart failure for a year, diagnosed a month or so before her 99th birthday. She'd been convinced to move to the large institutional hospice in town from the house she'd lived in since the year I was born, 6 decades prior. The first thing she said to me when I visited her the second day of her year there was, "Uta, I think I've made the biggest mistake of my life. I need to go home. Call your sister." I couldn't convince her to call my sister or her to insist to the staff that she'd come against her will. I poured myself into making her days as interesting as I could, pestering the social workers with demands to have someone come walk with her, to have clergy from her denomination visit, and to accommodate her deafness. They didn't even have the rooms outfitted with phones for volume adjustment. Their philosophy of isolation for those awaiting death was obvious. I was astounded at my siblings' hard-heartedness towards Mother, but not surprised by their efforts to isolate me and my opinions from the rest of my mother's world. I had a few compatriots in keeping my mother's universe livable for her last orbit, and they did what they could, visiting, sending cards, and bringing special treats. I sent boxes of homemade chocolates and cookies for her to serve to them. Much to the hospice administration's surprise, my mother was still alive and ambulatory 8 months later. Laws vary from state to state about this, but in Wisconsin, living longer than expected didn't get Lorraine sent home. This complex was in the next town, actually, and I would have been dependent on my siblings for rides on my visits if I hadn't found a hotel across the street from a bicycle store to stay on my own and get back and forth alone as well. I bought myself a bicycle. As I reflect on this, her last day with us, I'm glad in a way that all of the difficulties have resulted in such vivid memories. Perhaps the frequency of dreams featuring my mother in these 5 years since is one reason to be happy for the bike rides, for the frantic shopping to create her a container garden for her patio, and my little success in getting the phone for the hearing impaired sent and installed. Because of that, many people besides me were able to call and speak to her during those months. Her very impaired hearing was often my focus. I wrote her a letter every day and left notes around that little room before both of my departures. I knew her world was mostly silent, and communicating with her was a combination of amplification, sign language, lip reading on her part, and the written word. She wrote back on the cards I provided with my address and a stamp on the envelope. Her writing became less secure, carried more by style and habit than substance at the end. I saved almost every card. I gave a few back to the woods, letting them slowly evaporate with the rain on the high rocky slab where I go to pray and watch the sunset. The day before I left the last time, I gave her the heartstone from my book, My Heart, Your Heart. I have it in my pocket. Here they are, her heartstone and my heartstone. I warmed it in my hand before I put it into her palm. Ever the true mother, she wanted me to have it. I have its twin, I told her. We will hold our stones in our hands and be with each other. She wrote later that she held this stone many times a day. The day I left, I visited early in the morning when she was still sleeping. I moved a chair to the side of her bed and rested next to her, as she had done for little feverish Uta when I was a child. A nurse came in and woke her up to take her vitals. This was something like 6:30 a.m., and I was quietly livid. I'm going to send this very piece, which I read to you now on my channel, to that place. I do not understand why a woman lives for more than 6 months in a little room, eating alone most days and nights, when she's able to walk, has her right mind, and has been refusing the morphine offered to her on a daily basis. So, Lorraine awakened to find me there, asking the nurse why she can't come back, why she can't see my mother is sleeping. But then This is the town where university people are quite set on the journey away from gendered language, and the word mother itself is erased. The nurse finished, and Mom was awake. "I was just thinking about you. How long have you been here?" she queried. It comes to me now that I'd actually been there for over an hour and had tried to nap on the little couch. It was after I'd realized sleep wasn't part of the mood for me that I moved the chair over to her bed. I had my backpack and suitcase with me, as I had to leave later that morning. Actually, I think I didn't. I'll have to fix that. I think I had left it at the hotel, and I was biking back to the hotel. My friend came there, and I had also had to take the bicycle back to the bicycle store so they could store it, because I thought I might come back one more time. Anyway, I had a sense that it was the last time, but I really wasn't so sure because she was still walking and rather active. She wasn't on oxygen yet. This was May. She'd entered the place I called the Palace of Death on September 12th, the fall before. I made sure the hearthstone was on her table, and the cards I'd written were secreted in a drawer, in a crease at the side of the shabby little half couch. She'd find pieces of me after I said goodbye. Knowing that gave me the strength to remain composed. I grandiosely took out my computer, the laptop I brought for watching the wood duck videos on a recent evening. I logged onto YouTube to my favorite version of Bach's double violin concerto. The soloists were Itzhak Perlman and Pinchas Zuckerman. I placed the earbuds in her ears and put the volume all the way up. I could hear the glorious cascades of magnificence without the speaker. The volume was so loud. It worked. I could tell immediately from the look in her eyes, that look I recognized from when she heard her favorite hymns. "Beautiful," she said. "I can hear it. Beautiful." Thank you, everyone.